Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session of the Launch and Learn series. I am Praise Benson, a junior digital marketing executive here at Futuresoft. Launch and Learn is a bi-weekly program where each staff gets to train people on topics relating to our industry. Today is your first time joining us. You are welcome. Eyitayo Ayodeji, our Web Project Intern, will be facilitating today's session on the topic Data-Driven Project Management in Web Development. Over to you, Eyitayo.
All right, thank you, Praise. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eyitayo Ayodeji, and I'm the Web Project Intern here at Futuresoft. So today for my Launch and Learn session, we'll be discussing data-driven project management in web development. My goal for this session is to make you understand why data exactly is important in project management and how to make data-driven decisions while building your projects. So today we'll discuss the role of data in web project management, understanding data-driven project management. We'll discuss some key performance indicators for your web projects. We'll look at some tools and how to track and analyze your project data. We'll discuss collecting and interpreting meaningful data for your project. We'll discuss how to make data-driven decisions for your web project. We'll look at some common challenges people face and how to overcome those challenges when dealing with data-driven project management. And we'll briefly explore the future of data in project management. Okay, so I would like to begin with this quote by Carly Fiorina, who is the former CEO of Hewlett-Packard, HP. And the quote says, "The goal is to turn data into information and information into insight." Now, I want you to remember that at the back of your minds as we dive further into this topic. I'm going to start briefly with discussing the role that data plays in web project management. In this digital age, we live in a very data-centered world. We live in a very technical age, a very data-centered world. And by this, I mean we have access to more information and data now more than ever. So it is very important that we're able to not only get reliable data and accurate data, but we are able to use this data to make good decisions and derive positive solutions. So in modern project management, essentially, data has become the backbone because data offers insights that can help you drive efficiency, predict issues beforehand, and ensure successful project delivery. By using data effectively in your web project, you can make informed decisions that would enhance your project outcomes. And data is sort of, let's say, an objective lens to measure your progress of your project, to allocate resources effectively, and to identify potential risks early in the process. Developing a web project without data is risky. In modern web development, you need to make decisions quickly, and making those decisions without data is very risky because data enhances precision. It helps you reduce uncertainty. It enables you as a project manager, as a team member of a web project team, to make better and faster decisions. Therefore, managing web projects without data leads you to making assumptions and making decisions based on guesswork as opposed to factual information. And making assumptions can cause missed deadlines. It can cause you to go over budget, and it can cause underperformance of your work project as a whole. So as web projects continue to grow in complexity, and as technology continues to advance, and trends and consumer behaviors continue to change, a data-driven approach is essential. So essentially, data is essential in your web project. So it's very important to rely on real data as opposed to making assumptions, because real data provides a solid foundation for decision-making. Data provides crucial insights that can be very helpful to your project success. Furthermore, data will help your team to stay objective, to minimize risks, to ensure that your product stays aligned with your project goals and/or your organization's goals. Data provides insights and foresight for decision-making. Across different disciplines, it's very important to adopt data in project management, regardless of what project you're trying to build, to help you identify trends, forecast potential outcomes of your projects, and to lower risks. Now, let's try to understand exactly what data-driven is. Data-driven project management is a bit better. So by definition, data-driven project management involves using objective, quantifiable data to guide every phase of a project. whether you're deciding how to allocate resources, what features you're going to prioritize, or what features your client wants you to prioritize. You need to predict risks that you might face during your project process. Data is going to inform every decision you make. So it involves taking a data-centered approach, using factual information as opposed to previous knowledge from past projects or guesswork based on your own personal knowledge to guide project decisions at every stage, from planning to execution to delivery. So data-driven management, it relies on metrics that actually provide a more accurate picture of your project health. So in web projects, this could mean using performance metrics, using user data, having development KPIs, which we'll touch on later, to drive your web project strategy. There are many advantages to adopting a data-driven approach to project management. Some of these include improved accuracy in decision-making because data removes guesswork. So you're allowing your decisions to be based on factual data and real information. And by basing your data on factual information, you are improving stakeholder confidence. So your clients, senior management, anybody else that's a stakeholder in the project you are building gains confidence in project managers and teams who rely on data as opposed to guesswork to guide their decisions, because you are not just making assumptions on project timelines. You're not just making assumptions on when certain things can be done. You are basing your thing on historical data, on current data that you have collected and analyzed, and you're showing your stakeholders that this is why you are making such decisions, and they have more confidence in you. It boosts your credibility as a project manager or as a team. Data-driven project management helps you predict project risks ahead of time. You can identify potential issues before they escalate, so you can enable preemptive measures. It also enhances accountability. This comes more under improved accuracy, enhancing accountability and credibility as a team. It also helps you optimize resources more effectively. This way you can identify inefficiencies, reallocate resources if need be, go over your budget if need be to achieve your project and potentially achieve cost reduction, because you know where exactly you need to allocate more resources to or reallocate resources in. You know exactly which aspect of your project would benefit from it. Also, data-driven project management allows for continuous improvement as a team, and continuous improvement for your project in the long run, because you're continuously working on data as analytics and you're continuing working on data and analytics. So working with data and analytics, excuse me. So it encourages a culture of continuous improvement. You continuously improve on your project, and it doesn't just remain the same. You make continuous improvements to features, pages, or any other thing based on the metrics you have gathered. Okay, now we want to discuss some key performance indicators for your web project. A key performance indicator is a measurable, quantifiable value that shows how effectively your project is progressing towards its goals. Key performance indicators, they are quantifiable metrics. They help you know whether your project is actually making progress or not. And these are things you can track the performance of your project with, and it helps the whole team, you as a project manager and the whole team, know that you are aligned towards your project goals. So in web development, it's very important to define what your KPI is or what your KPIs are, and for maintaining your project health and ensuring timely delivery. This might mean measuring how fast your features are delivered, how fast your developers develop a page in line with your project plan. It might mean measuring code quality, for example, if you're a very technical project. Just as mentioned before in my previous Launch and Learn, we mentioned about optimization. So this might mean your code is optimized, no excess use of JavaScript or any excess code that might be causing a lag in your project. This might mean optimizing making sure all images are optimized as well. This might mean gathering user engagement metrics. If your website is already live, for example, seeing how users engage with your website, measuring bounce rates, conversion rates, and how long users, page visitors, page views, so you know exactly how your web project is performing. So some KPIs can vary based on the project. For example, an e-commerce project might want to prioritize conversion rates, people who are making purchases, as opposed to a software as a service website might want to prioritize user engagement and satisfaction, maybe more page views as well. So it depends on the type of project, the type of web project you are building. But these are some common KPIs that people take in account for web projects. So you look at the project completion rates, which is ensuring that your project meets its timely, is completed on time, timely delivery. Sprint velocity, if you're a team that works in sprints with Agile, or in Scrum methodology, if that's the way you decide to manage your project, making sure that each sprint, each phase of your project is completed on time. User engagement and satisfaction is something else to look for in performance, because whether if your website's already live, or if your client's satisfaction as well will be under this, because if your website is already live or in process, you need to know, for example, if you have done a beta testing of your site with a sample of potential users, you need to know whether they are satisfied with how the website looks, how the website performs. These are things to know that can predict your potential project success. If you discover any bugs, and if the resolution rate of your website is like slow or fast, these are things to know. As mentioned earlier, code quality, this is if you're a very technical project, you need to have in mind that your developers are ensuring that your code is of high quality so as to not cause any problems along the line. And resource utilization, how are you using the resources available to you for your web project, and how is that helping you achieve your project on time, and how are you not going above budget? How are you not misusing resources? These are very important. This can help you predict how well your web project will perform. Okay, now that we've talked about KPIs, I want to go into some tools that we can use to track and analyze project data. Effective project management, it relies on using the right tools to collect and interpret data. There are so many tools available. It's so important to leverage these tools for your particular project. Some of the popular tools are Google Analytics, Tableau, Jira, Asana, and Power BI, which we'll go over in a bit. But these tools provide real-time visibility, provide data visualization, helps you understand raw data better, so you can interpret it and make guided decisions. Now, let's go over each of these tools a little bit further. First, Google Analytics. Google Analytics is very common. Most small businesses will use Google Analytics, or a smaller web project will use Google Analytics because it's easier to understand. It tracks your user behavior on your website. So it monitors user interactions, page views, it helps you measure bounce rates to analyze your website's performance. Conversion tracking, it provides insights into how well your website converts, leads to leads, sales, or other key goals. And it provides real-time data on your traffic sources, active users, current site activities, and allows for immediate adjustments. This is very common, and a smaller, less complex website will most likely use Google Analytics. Aside Google Analytics, there is Tableau, which is more of a data visualization tool. It helps you, if you're a larger organization or you're working on a larger project with a complex data set or multiple sources of data, you can take that raw data and it helps you transform it into charts and graphs for visualization, for you to understand better, to make decision-making, for your team to understand better as well. It offers customizable reports, enables users to create tailored reports that focus on specific KPIs, such as mentioned earlier, user engagement, project completion rate, and it has integration capabilities. It helps you can easily integrate Tableau with Google Analytics, external spreadsheets, external databases for a holistic view, overview of your project data. There is also Jira, and Jira is most likely used in, as mentioned before, agile project management teams. But also, when you're working in sprints, it's ideal for managing your sprints, your backlog, sprint velocity for agile projects. It's also used for more complex projects in general, rather than smaller web projects, but just to manage. It's more of a project management tool as opposed to a data tool. It's more on the team side. But it helps you have customizable dashboards, so you can track key metrics and look at charts, issue tracking, workflow efficiency, so that your team also sees, everyone in the team also sees this and sees the data that, like, on the team productivity side of project management. It helps you track bugs and issues and helps you to prioritize problems so you can resolve them easy during the development phase of your web project. There's also Asana, which is another project management tool. It helps your team organize tasks more effectively, helps you track your progress, it helps you meet deadlines. So if you're really wants the team to work better and faster together, this is a tool that can help you not only help you adjust your timeline because the data is there, it can predict timelines for you as well, help you manage your and help you manage milestones to ensure everything stays on schedule. It also allows for collaboration. So it allows team members to communicate, share files all on the platform and give updates. And it uses Kanban boards where you can also drag for to do, done, in progress, just to know where you are at with and where your team is at with the project progress. Lastly, Power BI, which is a business intelligence tool. This is now more on the data side. It helps provide comprehensive data analysis. It provides advanced data analytics, and you help combine your data from multiple sources. It's more likely for a more complex web project with lots of data. And to give you a full view of your project performance, it provides interactive dashboards, creative dynamic and interactive dashboards that allow you to visualize data, trends, and project outcomes. It also, like Asana, also provides collaboration features where your team members can collaborate on the data that's shared to make everyone understand and stay on the same page. So now that you know the tools to track your data, let's talk about collecting and interpreting meaningful data. Yes, you have all this data, but what are you going to do with them? Interpreting the data is where things really start to make sense. It helps you to guide your decision making. So the quality of your project management depends heavily on the data you collect. So you need to know what exactly is meaningful to your project. It depends on the type of project you are leading, type of team you're leading, what exactly are your KPIs. So that's when it helps you guide the data that's important to you, because there's so much data out there. You need to be able to narrow it down and not only visualize raw data. Apart from narrowing it down, you need to know that, okay, this is meaningful to my project. This is meaningful to what I'm doing as a project manager. This is meaningful for what my team is doing, what I need exactly for this particular project. So some key sources of data that project managers tend to collect is team activity data. So if you're using project management tools like Jira or Asana, you need to know you need to provide visibility into how productive your team is on track of your project timeline. So if tasks are being completed on time, if you use GitHub, for example, if you're a more technical focused project, are your developers committing code on time? What are the time logs? How fast are they working? And this is very important data for you as a project manager. So you can also give your clients and your stakeholders a key idea into, okay, this is how we work. This is how long it takes to complete certain tasks. Therefore, this is probably what the project timeline is going to look like. Key source user behavior is very important, especially if you're a consumer-facing project. If you're building a consumer-facing web project or for a consumer-facing brand or client, you need to measure metrics like conversion rates, page views, bounce rates, to know how users are engaging with your website. So you know exactly what decisions to make. And if you're just on the side of, for example, web maintenance, you need to know how well your system is performing, how well your website is performing, and how long your website is on downtime, response times, errors that users might be facing. If that's your project is website maintenance, these are very important sources of data to maintain the reliability of your web product. Now that we know about some sources of data that we can focus on that will be meaningful depending on your project, we need to know how to interpret data for informed decision-making. And interpreting data requires understanding of the context behind the numbers, because data alone is not enough. You cannot just say, oh, these are the numbers, and without doing some sort of analysis, without understanding. As a project manager, as a team, a web team, you need to know exactly what these numbers are saying and how these can inform your decision making, because there will be external stakeholders who might not understand the numbers on the technical aspect as you might, or just want to really hear exactly what is going on as opposed to looking through large amounts of data for themselves. So it's interpretation and the subsequent decision making that drive results. So decision making comes from data analysis, and there are several data analysis techniques you can use. You can trend analysis, you can monitor trends, and such as bug reports or just delays, trends in your website, or for different pages. This page has this issue, this page does not. So you can predict potential delays in development or potential challenges you face when going live, for example. Comparative analysis is another one. You can compare the performance of different features, different pages, for example, different search functions on different pages on your website, for example, and highlight what is working and what needs improvement. This helps you know exactly what you need to focus on, what your team needs to focus on, what your performance needs to say, you can extend the deadline, you can make it shorter if things are working. So just continuous comparing for continuous improvement. And forecasting. If you use historical data, for example, you have collected data and use tools to track and analyze for a previous web project. If you're working on a similar project, could be for a same client, a different client, you can use this data, knowing exactly what went wrong based on the data you collected or what went right, and predict if it's similar, if it's in line, sort of predict future outcomes for your current project. So you predict what you need for resources, so you know how to use resources better this time. You can predict future risks or future bottlenecks you find along the way. So what you use this data to make informed decision-making like this. Okay, now we're on the discussion of making informed decisions. Let's dive a bit further and talk more on why it's so important to make data-driven decisions in your web projects. Data-driven decision-making, it provides an objective foundation for your choices. It helps you to remove bias or guesswork. As we mentioned earlier, it's important to work based on factual information as opposed to making assumptions. So in some examples of data-driven decisions could be adjusting timelines, allocating resources effectively, prioritizing features. In web projects, it helps you, guide your timelines, resource allocation, and feature prioritization. Yes. Data helps in setting realistic goals for your stakeholders, which is very important because they have a lot of say in your project, as well as you as a project manager. It helps guiding, so being able to have sort of like evidence, proof that you are making set decisions, you are saying certain things based on the objective foundation you have. It helps balance stakeholder expectations. And this is very essential in improving stakeholder confidence and improving the success of your project, because it helps increase support as well as understanding from all stakeholders, depending on if you run into an issue along the way, because you have the data to back it up. This is why you ran into an issue. You have been collecting data over time. You are accurately recording every step of your process for the project. The clients or the stakeholders are more likely to understand that, okay, this is why this happened. They are working to resolve this issue. So this is how data guides your decision-making in web development. So when making decisions, it's very important. So when making decisions with data-driven project management, it's very important to follow a set of best practices. So you keep focused, you don't lose focus. You keep focused on what is important. You keep focused on the data that's meaningful. You only collect the meaningful data to your particular project, and you collect actionable insights. So you are always aligned with your goals. Some of the best practices include setting clear KPIs from the start. You need to know what your key performance indicators are from the start of the project. Once you've defined your project goals and you're already in the planning process, know that, okay, this is what it's going to look like. This is what success looks like for my project. This is what it's going to look like that my project is performing well. So whether you want to measure user engagement, code quality, if you work in sprints, you can measure sprint velocity. You need to have clear goals from the start so that your team remains focused on what matters the most. And also your stakeholders, senior management, your organization knows, okay, this is what they are working towards. I can measure this as well. I can look into this as well to see if this project is on the right track. Automated tools, you can use data automation. And there's so many tools in the process of developing, you can already start collecting data. So you don't have to do that as another step. And once you're done, you can just interpret the data once you're done. So while you're building, you can already start tracking. Before you go live, you can already start tracking your data that you need for your project. So Google Analytics is an example of a tool. Jira is an example of a tool that is automated. And if you are a technical project, you can also use GitHub just to, like, as mentioned earlier, I mentioned something about commit history. If you have more developers, just to commit code, just to know that this is the way we've been operating, this is how the project process has gone, and it's automatically recording your data. So it helps you know that, you're on track with your KPIs, and helps you to focus on interpreting the data later on, as opposed to tracking later on. Also speeds up your timeline process as a project manager. And while this data is being tracked and collected, as a project manager or as a team member, you need to be able to review this data regularly, even throughout the process of development, before you go live, when you've gone live, know exactly, so you can identify bottlenecks from the start. You can't just go months or weeks without kind of checking the data of a web project you've worked on, because you need to know what's going right, what's going wrong, what can I report back on? And that's very important. Also, it's very important for data transparency. I already mentioned, improve stakeholder confidence, but when you talk about data transparency, let your team be able to read some of these dashboards, some of this data that you see, share some of this information with your team so they know exactly where they are on track. Share it with senior management, share it with whoever is a stakeholder in your company, share with clients, and kind of walk them through the process to understand, okay, this is what the data says, this is why we are where we are at in our project, and this is what we intend to achieve, this is what we intend to get to. So data transparency also, it encourages a data-driven team culture. It encourages data-driven culture for everybody involved in the project. So everyone is now more, okay, they on their own hand will be more inclined to use data, to track data, to get relevant information, and not also it's so helpful when everyone else on your team, everyone else involved, is not making assumptions as well. It can't just be one person. You need to start by showing. So you need to start by showing the data, encouraging this data transparency. And these are best practices that will definitely ensure success in your project. Okay, now we'll discuss some challenges that project managers and teams might face when adopting a data-driven project management approach, and we'll talk about how to overcome these challenges. So some common challenges while adopting a data-centered way of project management include data overload and incorrect interpretation, resistance to data adoption. Yes, it's so important. Data offers so many advantages and benefits, but it does present challenges, especially if you are changing your way of project management. This is a new way of adopting, and you have a team that is, or clients, or an organization that is just newly adopting using data. You will run into some challenges. Overcoming data, you have to overcome data overload. So if you have, as mentioned before, if you're working on a complex website, a complex project, for a client with multiple sources of data, using the right tools, knowing that Google Analytics might not be enough, for example, using the right tools, you need to be able to overcome data overload, because when you have a wealth of data, there will also be data that is of poor quality, and you don't really want to, you want the data you're getting, the metrics you are basing your business decisions on, to be good quality data. So you need to be able to, know the right tools to use to get the right data you need, then collect and interpret the meaningful data, then make the right decisions based on the right data. That could be a challenge you run into. Another challenge you run into could be incorrect interpretation on your part, on stakeholders' part, on your team members' part. They could incorrectly interpret the data, and you or your team members or your stakeholders could also make decisions based on incorrect interpretation. If they don't read it well, they don't understand the data well, this doesn't make any difference between making assumptions and actually working with factual information. So you as a project manager, or you as a team member that is heavily involved in the project, needs to be able to understand yourself, what the data is saying, interpret what it's saying, interpret what your metrics are saying, interpret what your user engagement data is saying, and things that your team productivity data is saying, and be able to explain that correctly, or you will run into issues along the line. Then you could also find resistance to data adoption, especially I mentioned if you're just newly adopting a data-centered way of project management, and you have been managing projects or building projects in a different way before, you might find some resistance, to people might not trust the data, for example. People might not be so easy to accept that, okay, this is the right way or this is a better way forward, especially if you don't have previous successful projects that you've used data-driven approach to kind of back on. So you need to encourage data adoption within your team, and that can be a challenge because the way of management in different organizations or different projects can be different, and changing management and encouraging people to adopt a data-centered way can be a challenge you can face. But this is how you can sort of find solutions to these challenges. You can focus on relevant KPIs and remove unnecessary data that comes with data overload. So, meaningful data from the start, this is what I'm looking for. I don't need all these excess things. I don't get distracted by excess information that doesn't technically benefit my project at this current time period. You can use clear visualizations. So there are tools like Power BI, Tableau that will make your data into charts, as mentioned earlier, to simplify complex data. So other people can now interpret it easier and understand better. And you can ensure data literacy to address the challenge of data adoption through team training, encourage adoption by show first the value of data and decision-making, make good decisions based on the data that you've learned, and encourage the team to adopt such by just training them and giving them tools to also learn and understand as well. Okay. So we've talked about data project management and the importance of it so far. Let's just briefly talk about what the future holds for data in project management. So the future of data in project management, I feel like it lies there'll be more integrations of data with emerging technologies coming out. Data will play a more central role in project management and in almost everything, to be honest, across industries. So data and management and analytics are going to be I feel like they're going to be the lifeblood of future project management. So as trends continue to evolve, as technologies continue to advance, project managers need to be able to leverage this data, leverage trends to make informed decisions that will contribute to business growth and project success and customer satisfaction, as well as client satisfaction. So some trends you can watch for AI and machine learning, and this is probably the most important one because it's all a branch of artificial intelligence, and machine learning is technically a branch of data science, and machine learning platforms, artificial intelligence, they all work with data. They all work with large data sets. So you need to be data centered. You need to have a data-minded way of viewing things, a data-minded way of project management, of addressing your projects, because AI and machine learning, we know, is taking over almost everything. Slowly and steadily has an AI feature which uses machine learning or large language models, and everything is based off of data. So you can use AI and machine learning to also be a tool to predict. So the machine learning helps you, there's predictive analytics in machine learning. So it helps you predict your project outcomes, automate decision-making. It helps you understand. There's so many like chatbots and artificial intelligence helpers that you can understand data project management better. So it helps in knowledge as well. CI/CD integration is another trend to watch out for. So analytics tools are being embedded directly into continuous integration and deployment pipelines. So for example, as your developer might know more about this, if when it comes to deployments and going live, there are more analytics tools. So in the process of deploying or getting to the final stages of your project, you have all these analytics tools already there for you to ensure that your quality checks are there, to ensure that everything's up to date before you go live. And while you're doing continuous integration, implementing features, even after you've gone live, for example, there are analytics tools available, and all of these are data-driven. So it's very important to embrace data as a project manager, as a project team. And there's also automated project management. Very soon, I feel like we have Asana, we have tools that help teams and project managers. We have Asana, we have Jira, but I feel like very soon there'll be more tools that automate many routines that a project manager does, from resource allocation to timeline adjustments, that it might just be the team and it might overtake the project management way. So it's very important to also stay ahead as a project manager and, let your role remain relevant, I believe. So also having an idea of what these tools are from the start, just following these trends is very important to know, because data is in everything we do. Everything is based off data. People want more factual information. People want to gather more data from different aspects, different industries, and the information is out there. You need to know how to interpret the information and make good decisions using the information that we have. Okay, so thank you so much for listening so far. I just want to discuss some key takeaways that I want you to remember from this presentation. So we've discussed about data-driven project management and how it can make your web project be more efficient, predictable, and successful. I want you to leave this presentation with the mind that making data-driven decision-making is not just a trend. It's not just because artificial intelligence and machine learning is trending right now. It is kind of going to be the next thing. It's going to be the future. More people need to be reliant on factual information as opposed to personal knowledge and assumptions. So it's going to be a change in the way projects are managed eventually. So some key takeaways I want you to take away. Some key takeaways I want you to remember. You need to remember to use KPIs and data analytics tools to allow you as a project manager or your team to monitor progress, make informed decisions, and to achieve your project goals with confidence. It also enhances your project success. Adopting a data-driven approach is a critical step forward into improving your project outcomes, a critical step into enhancing the process, not just the outcome, but the process of your projects in all stages of web development. So embracing a data-driven approach to project management is a necessity, and it's going to be the next big thing because data is in everything. So I hope that with this session, you've been able to learn why data is important to web projects and projects in general, and why it's important to make data-guided decisions. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Eyitayo, for that session. Thank you for taking us through the necessity of having a data-driven approach in web development. Well done. We can now bring this session to an end. Please note that this video will be available on our YouTube channel. And if you have questions while watching the video, kindly drop them in the comment section. We'll be very happy to answer your questions. Join us next time for another session. Have a lovely day. Goodbye, everyone.